Thanks to everybody for taking the time to join us here today. As Brad mentioned, we're going to walk you through our advanced bank reconciliation solution for GP. But before we do that, I'm going to walk you through a little bit of an overview of our solution, of Nolan as a company, and then before jumping right into GP and walking through a sample reconciliation for you. So with that, I'm going to get started. And for those of you who don't know, a little bit of background on Nolan. We've been a Microsoft ISV partner since 1998. So we have a lot of experience working in the Dynamics community. Our main U.S. office is in Boulder, Colorado. Our corporate head office is actually located in the U.K. And then we do have an additional office in Canada, where both actually myself and Carol are based out of. And we really specialize in providing add-ons for Dynamics GP. So today we're going to be walking through our advanced bank reconciliation solution, but in addition to this, we do also have an intercompany suite of products, our intercompany postings, which allows for automatic posting between separate GP databases, as well as AR for cash receipts, and our intercompany POP to SOP, which is really for any companies that have intercompany trading relationships and share inventory. We're not really going to go into too much depth on any of the intercompany stuff here today, but should you have questions or find yourself having trouble with any of the things I've just mentioned, feel free to reach out to Turnkey and we can arrange for something separate from this webinar. So with that, I'm going to move forward and walk you through just some of the features of our ABR at just kind of a high level. So at its most basic, our solution is just designed to be very intuitive and easy to use while combining strong filters and searching capabilities to really just make the whole bank reconciliation process a lot simpler and easier. A big part of how we do this is through our grouping, posting, and reconcile rules. And these I'm going to walk through in more detail once we jump into GP, as well as when I do the overview. We also allow you to bring in your bank statements either through a CSV or a BAI file, which is a simple upload into our solution, and I'll walk you through all that as well when we're in GP. One of the big differences you'll see with our ABR is that when we extract transactions, we do it directly from the GL. So with a lot of clients, it can eliminate the need for a three-way reconciliation because there's no need to reconcile the checkbook to the GL and then to the bank statement. Because we're pulling directly from the GL, you just go right from the GL against your bank statement. We also allow you the ability to reconcile more than one GL account against a single bank statement. It's also a very simple process, and I'll mention a little bit more in depth when we're walking through GP. We also, despite being, the name of our solution being Advanced Bank Reconciliation, but we actually can work in non-bank account applications as well. And this is because we can really reconcile any GL account against any external statement you may have. So we see some people, some of our clients using our solution for payment gateways and credit card accounts in addition to their bank accounts. With that, we can also support ZBA accounts, and this is due to the ability of our solution to transfer balances to a reconcile account. And this is something, the non-bank accounts and the ZBAs, I'm not going to go into too much during my actual demo, but if you have questions on those, please feel free to ask, and we can always follow up with you afterwards as well. In addition to this, our solution also provides you with a lot of detailed reporting and audit information, and those are available at any point in time after you've performed your reconcile. So that's just kind of a quick walkthrough of some of the features and differences with our ABR solution. What I'm going to do now is, before I jump into GP itself, I like to just give an overview of our solution and how it works at the very kind of highest level. So what we're looking at now is our reconcile window. So this is the meat and potatoes of our solution. And what we're looking at here is essentially it's broken into 3 segments. And I recognize you're probably not going to be able to read this too well, but once I jump into GP, everything is a little bit clearer and easier to read. But this is really just to give an idea of what the solution does and how it works. So what you're looking at is the top portion here. The header contains some pretty valuable information, including your current book balance that it pulls from the GL, as well as your statement ending balance from the previous reconciliation. And that generates the difference here that we've got to reconcile down to 0 so you can finish your reconciliation. With that, on the left-hand side of our screen, this is where we extract the GL transactions to. So that's what's represented on the left-hand side. Now, as we're extracting, and I have to put a bit of an asterisk on this, we do have the ability to create auto-grouping rules. So should you have multiple line items in your GL that correspond to a single line item on the bank statement side, we can, under the right circumstances, create auto-grouping rules where our solution will group those together and then match them against that single line item. And even, once again, I put the asterisk because we really need to understand what information is contained in the GL and what's on the bank statement. But even if we can't do auto-grouping, we have the ability using filters to really narrow it down and make it a much simpler process. And you can either select many to one or you can consolidate on the fly. The right-hand side of the window is where the bank transactions are imported from your CSV or your BAI file. And as we're importing, we also have the ability to auto-post transactions to the GL. So should you have a transaction that shows up on your bank statement that doesn't have that corresponding GL transaction associated with it, we can actually set our solution up to automatically post that upon import. And I will show an example of that when I'm in GP. Then the third step in our process after you've extracted your GL and imported your bank statement is to run our proposed reconcile rules. So this is where we have our solution auto-match as many of your transactions as possible. Now typically we usually see anywhere from 85 to 90% of transactions get automated. Obviously it varies a little bit from client to client. But the way we do this is by first looking for amount, which is our default. But understanding that we see a lot of clients who have, a lot of the same amounts on a transaction, so it's not the most useful way to build your reconcile rules. So we also give you the ability to work with transaction date, document and check number, by reference field, as well as by your source document. We do also have the concept of a matching tolerance. So if there are consistent transactions that are, off by a penny or a known percentage, we can, during setup, have our solution allow that little bit of difference and have that fall within our matching tolerance. Now, that's not something I'm going to show today, but if it's something you'd like to hear more about, please let us know, and we're happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, in addition to being able to auto-group upon extraction, we also have the ability to consolidate GL transactions on the fly using a series of our filters, as well as a little button that allows you to consolidate, and that'll all get shown as I walk through GP itself. And the same for our auto-posting rules. If it's something that's more of a one-off and not with consistency to create an auto-posting rule, we do also allow you to create GL transactions on the fly from our solution so that you don't have to jump out and create a journal entry and to get it to balance. So I'm going to demonstrate both an automatic posting as well as an on-the-fly. So now is the part where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into GP itself and walk you through our solution. However, before I do that, I'm going to show you, this is the CSV file that I'm going to be importing for demo purposes here. Now obviously it's probably a little bit simpler than what a lot of you are used to working with, but it's more just to show you format and give you an idea of how we set up our rules. So I've got 3 transactions highlighted here. The first one I'm going to show you is our bank fees. So this is one where I've created auto-posting rules. So when we import this statement, it's going to recognize the transaction type on this file of $4.99, and I've created a rule saying anytime you see a $4.99 transaction type, it's a bank fee, and I want you to automatically post it. So I'm gonna show you that when we jump into GP, but here's where it is on my CSV file. Then I've also included two other items here that I've highlighted that are both consist of more than one GL transaction, but are a single line item on the bank statement. So the smaller amount here, this one is not going to be automatically grouped and matched. So we're going to walk through this one manually, and then this the larger transaction here is going to be automatically grouped and matched for us. So with that, I'm going to close this down and hop over into GP and start walking you through a sample reconciliation. So it all starts under Financials. You go to Reconcile Bank Transactions under Advanced Bank Reconciliation. When you do this, it's going to go ahead and it's going to launch our Reconcile window that I had showed you a little bit earlier, and hopefully is a little bit easier to read now. So first thing I'm going to do is just update my balance date before I get started. So how it works is during our setup and implementation, we work with you to create bank account IDs. So for my demo purposes here, I've got one created, Bank of Derek. So I'm going to select that, and now you're going to see it's going to populate my current book balance as well as my statement ending balance from my last reconcile. You can also add other information into here, but I kept it simple for demo purposes. This is where we associate, if you do want to associate more than one GL account, you can associate more than one with each bank account ID. So that's where we can help solve that problem for a lot of our clients. And now that I've selected my bank account ID, I'm ready to start working through my reconciliation. So for demo purposes here, I'm going to start by bringing in the importing the bank statement. It makes it a little bit easier for you to see the automatic posting that we're going to have work, but when you're actually doing it, it doesn't matter what order you work in. You can either import the statement first or extract your GL, whatever is simplest for you. So when you select import your bank transactions here, it's going to ask you to choose an import definition ID. So this is another thing that we work with you on during implementation and setup. So we've created one here called demo, and this is essentially where we map out the CSV file and let our, or BAI file, and let our solution know what it's looking for and what information it's bringing in. So it also knows where to look for the file. So now that I've selected my demo, I'm going to go ahead and say import. Once I do this, it's going to go through, it's going to read everything, import my data, and it is going to give me a little message saying that it is complete. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say, all right, import is complete. So now I can close this window down. I can bring my reconcile window back up, and all I need to do is then hit redisplay. So once I've hit redisplay, it's going to go ahead and it's going to import all the items that were on my bank statement onto the right-hand side here. And as you can see, it's actually created a GL transaction for me on the left-hand side for my bank fees based on the rule that I had set up. And you can see it's already assigned them a match number because it knows to automatically post and match them for us. So that's how the auto posting works. So now I've imported my bank statement. My next step is going to be to extract my GL transactions. So I go to the extract transactions window, and they're both under the routines here. So I'm going to give it my from date and to date. So you don't have to choose a certain time period, and we find a lot of clients, once they move to our advanced bank reconciliation, start to do the process more frequently. It's very simple to jump in, import a week's worth of transactions, bring in a week's worth of bank statement, and just start matching them as you work through the month. Our solution allows you to work in your window, shut it down, bring it back up when you're ready to continue. So there's no real time parameters that we put on, but we do find a lot of our clients do like doing a little bit more frequent than once a month. So now I've set my date range. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to extract these transactions. So now it's going ahead, extracting them for me, and it's going to print the extract log for me. I'll just show you this so you get an idea of what it looks like. So you can see here that it has successfully extracted 34 transactions from my GL. There are no exceptions. Anything below this line is where you run into an exception. Sometimes we'll see it with if you have multi-currency, but our solution is able to handle that. So we're happy to see nothing under this line. My transactions are extracted, and I'm going to close this report. Now that I've done that, once again, I can go ahead and jump back over onto my reconcile window. Once again, hit redisplay, and it's going to populate the left-hand side with all of my GL transactions. So now I've got my GL transactions extracted, I've got my bank statement imported, and I'm ready to start working through it. Now, before I start doing that, I'm going to take a moment and just walk you through some of the basic navigation capabilities of our solution. So the simplest is obviously just being able to order by any of the columns you see here. You can just click on it and it will sort by, for example, amount. You can do it on the left-hand side, come over to the right-hand side, do the same thing, and sort them by, whichever you want. You want to sort by date, you can do that. Now you see, I have it set to the single view, but you can bring up the more kind of standard GP two-line view if you like, and you can do that on both sides by clicking these little arrows. So you can see then all the information is displayed. For demo purposes, I like to keep it at one line, so I'm going to close these back down, but it's really your preference. And right here you can see right now it's currently displaying the reference field, but it does also have document number. So there's this little blue arrow that allows you to switch between the two. So if you prefer to work in document number, you can, or in reference field in the single line view. If you have the double line view, then obviously both are displayed, so that's not as much of an issue. Now, one of the things I wanted to show as well is the filtering capabilities. So you'll notice up top here we have this little filter symbol. You can select, and then you can choose how you want to create your filter, and it gives you a lot of flexibility, and we find a lot of clients, once they start using our solution, can get pretty specific with what they want to filter. So for my example here, I'm going to choose a reference, and I'm going to want it to contain, and I'm going to want it to have computer in it. So I'm going to seek out my computer check. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add this rule. I'm going to say OK. So now it's gone through and it's filtered all my GL transactions for reference with computer. So I'm happy there. I want to do this on the other side as well. So I can select filter, same thing, reference, contains, computer. I'm going to add it. I'm going to click OK. And now both sides of my window have been filtered down, and it allows me to work specifically with one type of transaction. So anytime, obviously, you're working with a large data set, this can be very valuable and really reduce what you're looking at and make it a lot simpler to work through your reconciliation. So now, for demo purposes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove these filters. Okay, on both sides. And there we go. So in addition to that, we also do have some pretty good searching capabilities. Now it's going to search based on whatever field you have highlighted. So right now I have the date highlighted, but I can switch it to amount if I want, and then I can say search. And it's going to go ahead and give me the option to search through and find something by transaction amount. So if I know I'm specifically looking for an amount, I can come in here and search by it. And that works for any of the fields on the screen that you can highlight. You can then hit search, and you can do it from either side. There are also, and I'm going to show you how these work a little bit later, but there's also the consolidate button here that allows you to group on the fly, and there's also the create GL transaction button that allows you to create GL transactions on the fly. So with that, that's the basic walkthrough of the navigation capabilities. And now that I've done this, I'm ready to move forward a little bit more on my reconciliation. Well, actually, true. What I'm going to do really quick is before I do that, I'm going to show you this transaction that I highlighted earlier in my CSV file. So you can see this, this transaction I know is created of more than one, so you can drill back on it and take a look, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to show me what transactions have been grouped together, and you do have the ability to remove some of these and add other ones from your list of GL transactions should anything need to be removed or added. But if you don't, we're happy with this. So mine, for example, is set up by batch ID. This is how it knows to group this particular series of transactions. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close these and go from there. So now the next step is to propose our reconcile rules be run. So that's this button up here. So during the implementation and during our setup is where we work with you to really refine what rules work best with your data. So, you know, for my example, they're going to be different than what you'd probably set up on your own, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click propose. So now it's done, and you can tell that it's worked because it has assigned match numbers to any transactions that met the reconcile rules we had created. So now you can see that's this additional column here for match number. And it also, what we can do then is our display here is currently set to all, so it's showing all transactions. So you can change this and look at only your matched transactions. So I'm going to look at my matched transactions, give it the once over, make sure I'm happy with everything that's been matched. Looks good. I'm comfortable with that, so I'm ready to move forward. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my view from matched to unmatched. And this is going to bring up the transactions that, for whatever reason, didn't quite fit the reconcile rules that we had created previously. So what I'll do is I'll just start working through them here on the one side. And once again, same thing, you can change from reference to document number. I find working with these, it's a little bit easier with document numbers, so I'm going to switch over to that. Now, the first item here that was unmatched is on my bank statement, but it is not in my GL. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is, for example, something like interest income. So I've got some interest income that's been shown on my bank statement. It's not showing on my GL, and I want to create a transaction for that. So I can go ahead and select this and then choose my Create GL Transaction button here. When I do that, it's going to bring up my entry window. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a reference here of interest income. It's very creative. And tab through that. So I'm going to pick my account. Now don't pay too close of attention to the one I pick because I'm just doing this for demo purposes. But you tell it how much. And I'm happy with that. So I've got it set. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post. I'm going to spare you all the general posting journal. It's a standard GP functionality, so I'm going to cancel that. But what you'll see here is now it has created the GL transaction for me on the left-hand side. I can see the reference I gave it of interest income. They're now both checked off. I'm happy with this, so I can now go ahead and say match. When I click match, it's going to take them and move them from the unmatched screen over onto the matched screen. And I'll take a moment here to mention that this works very similar for unmatched. So if you have two items that have been matched together and you want to unmatch them, you can just go in, choose them both, click unmatch, and it will do that for you. All right. So moving along, I'm going to move down my list here of my unmatched transactions. So I'm looking at this top one here, and I see that I have a similar transaction on the other side, a matching document number, but the amount was off by a penny. So I know this does happen from time to time, and I've got an account to deal with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose both of these transactions, and again, I'm going to choose to create a GL transaction. So for this one, again, I'm very creative. I'm going to choose to title it Penny Difference. And again, I'm going to go through, I'm going to choose my account. Select that, and I'm going to give it my value, and now I'm happy with this, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post this transaction. Once again, I'll spare you the general posting journal, cancel that, and now you can see that on the left-hand side, there's now been a penny transaction created here, and all three have been selected. They all balance now, so you can see that the difference for all of them is 0. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, let's match this. Now it's matched, and I'm on to the next. So now I can look at this transaction, and I see the amount, see the document number. I look to the other side. Well, the amounts match, but my document numbers are different. So it looks like GP has added a leading 0, or my bank statement has deleted a leading 0, but I know that this is a transaction I want to match. So it's as simple as just going ahead and saying, you know what, I'm happy with these two, they should match. Go ahead and match these and move it down and over onto the matched list. So this leaves me with my last example, which is another one that I had highlighted in the CSV file. So this bank statement item here is actually composed of these 3 transactions from my GL. So I do have options now on how I want to handle this. So some of our clients really prefer to have everything clean and single line item to single line item. So I can go ahead and choose to consolidate. So I'm going to give it a number of 001. And now I can, once I've added some information, I've put the amount in, given it a date, transaction number, now I can choose from any of the transactions I have on the GL side here. So I know that it's made up of these 3 items, so I can click each one and add them. And the amounts match, so I'm good. So I can click Save. I can close this. And now you can see my 001 transaction here is now been consolidated, and I can match single line item to single line item. Now, some people are not as concerned with that, so we can, if you want, you can remove these transactions. And if you prefer, if it's easier just to click many to one, I know these 3 here, I can click to that. See the marked matches, the difference is 0. So either way, I can consolidate it down, or I can click many to one, whichever works better for my situation. So now I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's match these. So now that I've matched all of my previously unmatched transactions, I can see that my difference is now 0, which tells me that I'm able to reconcile. Even though there is the current book balance, there is a difference between the current book balance and the statement ending balance. My outstanding transactions are going to account for that. And on one of our reports that prints out, we highlight that for you. So should the auditors ever ask for it, you have an easy way to access to show what the outstanding differences were. You can, depending on your setup and your situation, we can set it to allow reconcile on a non-zero difference. So should you end up with something that you need to leave, but you still need to reconcile, we can do that for you during the setup. And you'll notice the outstanding transactions in my example are all on the GL side, but you can leave transactions on the statement side as well and still reconcile, and then come back and work on it in the next round of reconciliation. So even when we reconcile and close all this down, it's going to leave these transactions here waiting for me for the next round when I'm ready to work through them. So now I've got all of this dealt with, my balance is 0, and I am ready to reconcile. Now, one thing I will also mention about our solution is in addition to reconciling, we also give you a very simple way to unreconcile should you ever need to. I'll show you the information you need to do that, but it's a very, very straightforward process and much simpler than what you'd have to do otherwise. So I'm going to go ahead and I am now going to reconcile my bank account here. So I'm going to print these ones to the screen and give you a little bit of a view on this. So what we're seeing here is the first reconciled transactions report. It just walks through and shows you all the things that we reconciled, the amounts, journal numbers, and this reconcile number here is what you need to use should you ever want to unreconcile. But not a whole lot on this report, so I'm happy with this. I'm going to close it down and show you the closing balance report, which people oftentimes find a little bit more interesting. Shows you all of your balances as of when, and more importantly on the second page, it's going to go ahead and list out what our outstanding deposits were, what our outstanding checks were, and it shows us the difference. And this difference was the difference between my GL account balance and my previous ending balance. So it's all right there. And these reports are available at any point in time to reprint. It's a very easy process to do that. So should anyone be asking for audit purposes, you can easily pull these up. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close that. And now with everything done, I'm ready to move on and do it all again next month when it's time. So I can close my window, and that is the long and the short of it. So with that, I think we can now open it up to any questions we might have.
Hey, Derek. We did get one question submitted to us it was about 19 minutes in. I'm not sure exactly where that was in the demo, but the question is, if we are reconciling weekly and something is posted into a previous week, how would I go about extracting that one into the screen?
Oh, perfect. Great question. So what you can do is when you're extracting from the GL, once we've extracted something from a time period, we won't re-extract it. So all you have to do is rerun the time period where the new transaction's been added, and it will pull any new ones, but it won't pull the same transaction more than once. So you the simple answer, rerun the extract for the time period where it's been added, and it will pull anything new while leaving anything that you've already extracted.
Okay. Danielle, if you still have questions about that, please feel free to reach out and we can go ahead and get it answered a little more in a little more detail for your situation.
Well, that's great. And two, I guess I forgot to mention a little bit earlier during our webinar here, but we are going to be doing a draw for a door prize for everybody who took the time to attend with us. So just so everybody knows, that'll be done. Turnkey's going to do that, and they'll draw the winner, and we will reach out to whoever wins and let them know. I'll be sending them over a Visa gift card as a thanks for attending. And in addition to that, we're also going to be doing some promotional pricing for anybody who joined us on the webinar here. And just feel free to reach out to Turnkey and see. And we can set up a time. If you'd like to have a one-on-one time, we're more than happy to set up more personalized demos for anybody who's been here. Same with if there's any intercompany questions, we're fine to set up for that as well. And just reach out to Michelle at Turnkey, and yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you, everybody who attended. Thank you, Derek and Carol, for presenting with us today. Like Derek said, if you have any questions or want to learn more or take advantage of advanced bank reconciliation from Nolan, just go ahead and contact Michelle Geeby here at Turnkey. You can see her email and phone number right there, or even contact us through our website and we'll get you taken care of.